Wow.
So they stole that record too. And I think one of the kids was like friends with one of them, which makes it even more brutal.
Right.
But Hank was with them, and I broke up with Hank, and it was like, all right, sayonara. I get signed to EMI,
Did you
and
shop? Did you shop at this time? How did you land at EMI?
I'll tell you, it's kind of crazy. So my first lawyer that got me out of my management deal that I had with Ken Greengrass was a legendary attorney named Fred Davis, who is also Clive Davis's son. He left law for a brief stint and became senior vice president of A&R over at EMI. So I played Fred the record, and Fred's like, I want to sign you. so Fred ended up signing me to EMI, which was hilarious because basically EMI, which was like a division, like SBK and EMI were like the same at that point, and SBK, had Vanilla Ice.
Mm.
So I was like their redemption for Vanilla Ice in their head. They're like, oh, we got this white kid who could rap, but who's got credibility. He was with the Bomb Squad and PE and this and that. And so like on my B side of Who's the Flavor was a song called Bring It On, which has G-Rap on it.
Right.
So like, I had credibility.
Absolutely.
I had these dudes with me, Clark Kent did a bunch of cuts on that album too. Daddy Rich was on it. Lot of great people on that record.
Phife Dawg, right?
Oh, 100%. Dude, it was a great album. It was a great album. And, it's so funny about the business too, because I think a lot of people don't know this, but I learned after my EMI experience that, labels are in the business of keeping the artist happy. They never want the artist to be upset because they always want the artist to smile, perform, right? You're a puppet. And I mean that respectfully. I don't mean that in such a horrible way, because it's also our decision that we want to get signed, right? Whether it's for the check or the promotion, whatever. But Lindsey Williams, who's also a legendary executive, was the head of urban radio for Crossover Radio at EMI. Lindsey had broken, Arrested Development, all the groups that were on that label. Lindsey and I became cool. And I remember here's what's funny. So when Who's the Flavor first came out, no, I should say before it came out, when they were sending out like the test pressings out to reviewers, they didn't have a picture of me. It just said Ali Dee and then Who's the Flavor. So I was getting all these reviews, all these great reviews from these, hip hop trade magazines that were saying like, this brother can flow. And I was like, ooh, like that's not good. Like that's not good. And in hindsight, I think to myself, I'm like, I wonder if that was like on purpose. You know what I mean? Like they were like, let's try to hoodwink everybody, in thinking to love the record first, and then we could show who he is. You know what I mean? I don't know. But when the record came out, Lionel Martin, legendary video director, total visionary. He was partners with Ralph McDaniels, Vid Kid. He shot my video. I had the girl from the Shy video who was on the beach in my video. So like in those days, like that was like the video hoe. like yo, you got the girl from the Shy video,
Right.
And by the way, my beef with YBT was still sort of continuing. So in the Who's the Flavor video, if you look at the very beginning of it, I have this blind dude in the video with a money cup, and on the cup it says YBT, and you see me put like a penny in it, like in the beginning of the video. It's subtle, it's kind of funny. But I actually heard that in response to that, they wanted to have a video for their Flavor record, where like literally they had like a piñata that like looked like me, and they were like gonna beat the shit out of me in their video. And I want to say somebody told me like Flavor was like, nah, you can't do that to Ali. Like you can't, like let's just move on or something like
Right.
that, which is crazy. But
Right. When that album dropped, what was the reaction like?
uh, everybody loved Who's the Flavor. Who's the Flavor got a great response. There was a great marketing campaign behind it, which, by the way, those lifesavers you got, yo, dude, where did you find those? Oh my goodness. I mean, no. I mean, like, for later. Tell me, because
Yeah.
that's amazing that you found those. You know, everybody remembers that. Everybody remembers the lifesavers. You know, they sent them to all the radio stations, all the DJs. You know, the single definitely got burned. Was added to MTV. Was in rotation. I went on tour. I toured with, you know, Deuce and Father MC and SWV and all those groups back then, which was kind of insane. Everybody loved the B-side, Bring It On. Everybody loved that, you know. And I'll just tell you a funny story about the G-Rap record. We're at Platinum Island where we recorded, and G-Rap's in the room. I'm in the vocal booth, and G-Rap's like, you know, yo, come out for a second, and I come on out. And he's, you know, with his lisp. And by the way, like, you're either a Rakim fan or a G-Rap fan. I was a G-Rap dude. I would die for G-Rap. I love him. And G-Rap says to me, he's like, yo, with his lisp, he's like, if I'm getting on this record, he's like, your verse got to be crazy. He's like, and right now, he's like, your verse ain't crazy. And I'm literally like, literally, I'm like, dude, I can't write a verse to compete with you. I was like, you write my verse. So he wrote my verse. He wrote my verse right there. He rehearsed it with me, and I spit my verse. And I love it because when I used to read reviews on it, they're like, yo, D's keeping up with G-Rap. I was like, yeah, that's because he wrote my rhymes.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a fun fact. We never knew that.
Yeah, he wrote my raps on that record. Dude, how do you compete with G-Rap? Come on now.
Right.
You can't compete with G-Rap. But the reviews were good. You know, you know, again, it's funny. I read a review from a DJ not too long ago, several years ago. A DJ went in, like I found it, like I was Googling it, and he went into like history, like that era. And, you know, his take was, again, horrible timing. You know, I was coming off the Vanilla Ice dilemma. You know, Marky Mark. You know, there was a thing about white rappers that a stigma, obviously, that I was trying to break. You know, the other funny thing about my album, now that I think about it too, which is funny, it's like, I don't know where this comes from. Well, I do know where this comes from, but like, it's funny. My lyrics were always either about like sex or like violence, which is like really funny, you know, in hindsight, because
Right.
I mean, I understand the sex thing, but I'm not a violent character at all. But I think that, you know, the dudes that I used to hang out with and that were my friends, you know, they were street dudes. You know, they used to fight dogs, and you know, they were street dudes. And it's funny that influence, you know, came onto my album, and it was like
Right.
this, you know, pop hip hop album. But like, you know, I got a song called like Stomping Committee, which is like, you know, I listened to it like a month ago. I played it for some of my guys at the studio, and I played it for them, and I was like, oh my God, like these might be like the most violent, offensive lyrics. Like it's like Ghetto Boy lyrics. I'm like, this is like hilarious to me, you know. But
Right.
I had a lot of fun with that record, and I produced the whole record myself, which was amazing. And you know what it did do is it really showed a lot of people my production chops, you know, as a solo producer. not with the Bomb Squad or not co-producing with somebody else, but they're like, yo, he makes some fire tracks, you
Right.
know. So that was amazing.
You also had the late great Phife Dawg on Styles Upon Styles. Can you take us
Yes.
back to a great memory, getting Phife in the booth?
Okay, so I'll tell you. So John Maneely, who I don't know if you know that name, John Maneely. So John Maneely, basically up until a couple years ago, ran Jay's company, Jay-Z. John Maneely was my business manager. He was also Chris Lighty's business manager and Tribe Called Quest business manager. So it was just a natural thing that happened. By the way, God rest both their souls, Chris and Phife. Again, I think that my experiences that I had with the Bomb Squad, whether it be working with particular artists in the studio or whether it be being at meetings with Hank. And by the way, that's why I count all experiences blessings, because there's good that comes out of everything. Regardless of if at the time I was like, oh, I should have gotten a point, whatever. The experience that I gained and the wisdom that I gained was worth 50 points at the end of the day. So when I went to John and I was like, yo, we got to do this, John was like, done. And he just like made it happen. And he, I got the track. I wasn't in the studio with him, got the track and was like, oh my God, I was like a kid in a candy store, except, I was actually doing work, but literally I was like a kid in the candy store. I didn't feel it was work, being able to hang with all these dudes, like having dinner with Big Daddy Kane, like crazy. I'm like sitting across from Kane. It's me, Kane, and Hank, and I'm having dinner with Big Daddy Kane. Are you kidding me right now?
Right.
It's crazy.
I believe you released 2 singles for the whole album. Is that correct?
It was. Oh, you're right. Wow, you're good, man. You're good. Yeah. Who's the Flavor with the B-side was Bring It On, and then Tapping Skins.
Do you think EMI did a great job of pushing that album?
Hell no.
Can you take us back to what eventually happened and
So I'll tell you, Lindsey Williams, the radio promo guy who I told you about, and again, legend in the game. I want to say his grandmother's the famous Sylvia from Sylvia's, the restaurant in New York. So Lindsey had told me that the big radio station out in LA is going to add the record. And he's like, it's over when this happens. And I was like, oh my God, thank you, Lord, this is incredible. 3 weeks goes by and I'm up in his office and I'm like, Lindsey, what's up with the station out in LA? Like, are they on the record? It wasn't like you could check so easy like now, right? And he goes, oh, nah, something happened. I don't think they're going to add the record. And I was like, what happened? I was like, you were bouncing off the table 3 weeks ago, telling me it's a done deal and all of this. And I kind of felt, honestly, like just the person I am, I kind of felt like shorted a little bit because I felt like I wish they had told me when there was an issue, because maybe I had a kooky idea that could have solved it. Or maybe I would have flown out to LA, met with the station, and they would have met me and said, oh, you know what? He's a cool dude. All right, we'll play it, whatever. And after that, it was sort of like all downhill, after that happened. Because I think the label was really counting on that happening. And I remember going into Fred's office, Fred Davis, who signed me. And I remember going into his office. And by the way, like, I'm speaking so real and factual right now. I'm definitely getting some phone calls. I mean, for sure. I go into Fred's office and I say to him, Fred, let me off the label. Let me off the label before, like, you know, more damage happens. And Fred unleashed on me like you have no idea. He unleashed on me. You know, I mean, you know, screamed on me. You spoiled brat. I mean, it was. I mean, maybe I even cried. I mean, it was pretty brutal. Um, and he basically said, he goes, we're gonna do another single. He goes, we're gonna do another single, and we're gonna blow it up. We're gonna blow up your next single. So I was stuck, right? You know, like you can't just get off a label, unless they release you, or you fulfilled your commitment. So I was waiting and waiting and waiting. They were like, we're gonna put Tappin' Skins out. They did not want to shoot a video for it. I convinced them to shoot a video. The budget they gave me was like that small. A girl who I was very close with at the time had like the bomb ass apartment. So literally I was like, can we shoot the video at your apartment? She's like, yes. We shoot the video at her apartment. Lionel Martin comes aboard to shoot the video because he was a fan from our, first Who's the Flavor. And he did the video for, nothing, basically. I remember we got all the girls from the video because Tap Skins is obviously about
Tapping Skins.
All the girls in the video we got from Scores, strip club in the city. Everyone was a stripper. And I got to be a pimp for a day. And it was pretty crazy. But that video did not get the same response as Who's the Flavor. BET would not play the video. You want to know why? Because we had an African-American girl having an orgasm in the video. So they were like, we can't have that. Now it would be interesting if it wasn't me, by the way, it wasn't like that crazy,
Right.
I mean, it was still PG, there was no thongs. There was no, it was a bunch of strippers in like bathing suits that like you wouldn't want to see anybody in now,
Right.
that kind of like, was like took a nosedive. And I finally got dropped from EMI. And I was like, okay, here I am. And at that point, I'm literally like, I never want to rap again. I'm like, I'm not rapping ever again. I'm going to stick to production and, writing, and I'm never rapping again. Because I was, I was really devastated, by the experience that, of how labels, I learned that you're a product, you're a product of the labels. They, outside the building, they might care about you as a friend if you start having that relationship, but really inside the building, you're a product. And
right.
You're a number, you're a dollar sign, and that's it. So, all of these great moments that I had with the PR department and the promotions department, and, I remember Charles Koppelman offering me a cigar one day, and I actually remember passing Vanilla Ice in the hallway, and it was hilarious. Like, I had like my dude with me, like my right-hand man with me, and like he had his right-hand man with him, and literally we're walking down the hallway. He and I are like staring at each other, and our two dudes are like, "Hey, what's up, man?" Like it was like hilarious,
No doubt.
Yeah, crazy.
So you leave the label, you're pretty much scorned and with the business, like jaded. Where does Ali Dee find itself, and how do you get back on your feet?
So I'm making demos for people. Like, that's how I'm getting by. So, at the time, again, my mom had passed several years earlier, 5 years earlier, 6 years earlier. My dad was getting very sick with something that we didn't know what it was yet. But basically was a very debilitating condition. And I was living with a girlfriend in a studio apartment on West 80th Street. And my girlfriend was friendly with this girl, her best friend, that they went to Marymount together. And the girl apparently, came from a wealthy family. Now, I didn't know what that meant, because going to private school, every kid next to you is, more wealthy than the next, I was the odd man out, I was the dude with the parents that hustled so that we could get to school and things like that. So I'm doing demos for people, getting by, $500 here, $600 down, behind on all my bills. I was cloning cell phones, so I never had a cell phone bill. So that was one of my side hustles. You needed your phone cloned, throw me $200, I'm getting you a new line. And I get a call from my girlfriend's friend's father. And he's like, "Hey, is Ali Dee there?" I'm like, "Hey, this is Ali Dee." It's like, "Listen, I have this girl, and I don't want to miss out on investing in her, because I hear she's a great singer. And I hear you're the guy to put it together for me." Now, at the time, I'm like, "This is amazing. I'm going to put the budget together. I'm going to have some money. I could pay some back bills, all that stuff," right? I meet the girl and realize she's not it. And I call the father up, and I'm like, "You know what? Don't spend your money." I go, she's not it. And this was probably the first time with this guy that anybody ever did that was actually honest with him, because people were always in his pockets. So over that next year, he says to me, he goes, "Ali, what do you want to do?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, what do you want to do?" I said, what do I want to do? I want to have a studio, and I want to change the way people view the middleman. I want to change the way people view production companies. He goes, "Put a proposal together for me." So I put a proposal together for him, and he's like, "I'm in." And he buys a building. We build a studio on the top floor of his building on West 26th Street, and we were off to the races. Literally that year, Lionel Martin has a group called 7669. He has me produce 3 cuts on their album. We sign a rapper from the Bronx named El Boogie. We get him a deal with Warner Brothers. And I'm like back, minus sleeping in my car for 6 months because I didn't have an apartment, which not a lot of people know that happened. It was a Mercedes, but I did, but it was my house, and right. I had all my laundry in the trunk, and so forth. I had a studio at the shower. I had a shower at the studio. So basically, what I would do is I'd be in the studio till like 11 at night, and right by West 26th Street, they had all these outdoor lots, and they weren't chained up, so they closed at 9 p.m. So I'm done at 11. I take my car out of the lot that it was parked in, and I drive it literally across the street to the other outdoor lot, and that's where I sleep. And then I literally wake up at like 5:30, 6 a.m., bring the car to the lot that I did park at, across the street, and I'd go up to the studio, I'd shower before anybody got into the building, and, leave it like that.